Right, so hello everyone, and thanks for joining us today for our series of webinars on cloud services aimed towards IT providers. So I'm Chris McQuarrie, I'm the Channel Sales Manager here at Cloud Direct. I'm just going to be giving a bit of an intro into the webinar itself, and then I'll be talking to you a bit later about the implications for partners and some of the commercial aspects. With me is Will Rowley, who's our technical specialist. He's going to be going into depth about the VoIP technology itself. So with regards to the reasons why we're doing these webinars, we've been speaking to a lot of customers recently who are either looking to move specific services or their entire infrastructure into the cloud. The main reasons we're seeing this from customers is either improved functionality, so particularly for businesses with a remote workforce or multiple sites, increased scalability, so being able to easily adapt the service as a business grows and changes, business continuity, and ultimately just improving the overall efficiency of the business. For the channel, what this really provides is an opportunity to increase your product portfolio, but to also build on the number of services that you're supplying to your customer base. Cloud services, providing they're of a certain quality, are also going to make the sales, the deployment, the support processes, all those will be much easier than your traditional on-premise systems. So this really allows you to focus on revenue growth in your core services, while still being able to capitalise on the growing cloud market. So we're going to be looking today, in terms of the series of webinars we're going to be looking at, just bear with me 1 second. Apologies for this. So the series of webinars we're going to be looking at, starting off with VoIP telephony today. VoIP's been one of the most successful cloud solutions, certainly for us in the last year. It's a service which really does address the needs of the typical small to medium business, but also complements most IT providers' existing range of services as well. So that's what we're focusing on today. We're looking at backup and disaster recovery on Thursday the 12th, and then on the 26th we'll be looking at hosted environments, hosted desktops and hosted servers and going into depth with those. So I'm going to pass you over to Will Rowley now.
Hi, good afternoon everyone. So one of the things we're going to go through today is just look at a few things regarding kind of VoIP, I guess. We're going to start with looking at what legacy systems are out there, what are you up against, what your customers already deployed, and how can you displace or get in on the act with providing some telephony and adding that to your portfolio. So that will largely be looking at VoIP and SIP trunking and how they can play. What a typical VoIP deployment looks like, which elements there would you want to look for a provider like ourselves to provide, what's there that plays into your natural specialisms anyway. What kind of telephony and advanced business telephony does VoIP bring? Where's the market really going? What expectation is there from customers out there of newer technologies? Where your revenue opportunities are, how can you build a revenue stream using VoIP and SIP trunking, and why would you look to us to do it? So if we start by looking at the kind of systems that you're going to come across, the kind of setups that your customers will have, they're largely going to be ISDN and traditional PSDN setups. So in a small and medium-sized business, they might have an ISDN 30 with up to 30 channels for use. They'll have PBXs in those environments. The remote offices, the smaller sites, might have 2 channels of ISDN, and home workers and things are really stuck with using mobiles and their own landlines. So what this means is that you've got, for a start, limited numbers of concurrent calls on ISDN. Now that might not be a problem for many businesses, but others where they've got high call requirements, contact centres and sales especially, it's a real trouble to have not be able to have as many concurrent calls as you have users. Inconsistent DDI ranges, so your DDIs and indeed your telephone numbers are all dictated by the exchange that the ISDN channels are coming out of. That means that if you've got a national or a small regional customer who has several offices on different exchanges, there's inconsistent DDIs and no single point of contact for their end customers. The PBX maintenance is often quite expensive. If you're currently vending PBXs, you'll know that there's a maintenance charge, usually around about 10% of the total value of the piece of equipment ongoing. And for those of you that aren't, this is a real win for customers to be able to get rid of that maintenance contract and not have to pay maintenance on a piece of equipment. The PBXs we've said they're limited PBX functions. In fairness, they're very good if you buy one brand new, but they age very quickly, and the access to new technology and new ways of working are pretty limited with PBXs going forward, especially as we see more mobility and more presence requirements in the kind of communication sphere. And really, the whole system is decentralized and it's untidy, it's cluttered. There's usually multiple bills from different suppliers, so somebody for the ISDN ranges, somebody else for a least cost routing, somebody else is providing a PBX. And really what this means is that the visibility of the telephony costs in a business are unclear, and that's something that you can capitalize on. So if we look at what hosted VoIP and SIP trunking can offer, I'm going to go a little bit of an overview, very high level about the technology for those that aren't already aware, and then a bit more into what hosted VoIP is as opposed to SIP trunking, and then kind of tying off on kind of the features and what you can expect from the two. So we provide access to a BroadSoft platform. BroadSoft are a very respectable hosted VoIP, if you like, or VoIP vendor. 8 out of the 10 VoIP carriers in the world use a BroadSoft platform. And that splits into two camps. One is hosted PBX and the other is SIP trunking. So VoIP in itself is just voice over IP, but it's how that is delivered which determines whether you're a hosted VoIP or your customer is suitable for hosted VoIP or for SIP trunking. So hosted PBX effectively is taking that PBX that's traditionally been in a comms cabinet in the customer's premise and putting it into the cloud or virtualizing it or giving them access to a virtual platform. And so instead of having analog lines leading back to that PBX in the comms cabinet, what you're using is your broadband, your lease lines to get access through the internet to a data center where the PBX resides. So wherever you are in the business, and that's not geographical, you can access that hosted PBX. That means all your number ranges are sat in the cloud, which means you can have the same number ranges across branch offices, head offices, mobile and home workers. And as long as you can get internet connectivity, everyone can use their telephony, which means things like DR is instantly made much easier. You only have to relocate the users, provide them with a new handset, and telephony can carry on as per normal. Looking then by comparison to SIP trunking, this really plays into sites where there are a large number of users and often where they've got expensive legacy equipment. So they may have had a large PBX put in there fairly recently, but they're using ISDN 30. They've got many channels of ISDN that is costing an arm and a leg. So what we can do is utilize EFM and lease lines, and in fact we've got our own SDSL product designed to displace ISDN to provide SIP trunks. So channels of IP traffic available to the IP PBX on site, which allow IP calls to be made using existing legacy equipment. And this is one of the biggest growth areas for existing customers who've got legacy equipment and don't want to have to outlay any new, don't have to put any outlay for new IP handsets. They will use their existing kit. So the features that you can kind of expect from us, we'll just touch on the fact that we do provide PSTN and ISDN line rental. We're a WLR3 wholesaler from BT, and the reason for that is not because we think it's a defunct technology, but really most of the time we find there's a requirement for people to carry on having some PSTN or ISDN in their environment. Normally it's things like a fax line, or it's because they want PSTN to be able to supply broadband over. So we do have that ability. Obviously we provide hosted VoIP. Everything is the latest hardware. We use HD handsets, and they're all under warranty. Importantly, we supply billing for all the call charges and all the licensing from the platforms. That means that whether you want to bill your customers directly or whether you want to refer bill them, all of the billing calculations and tariff sheets and all the rest of it is dealt with by ourselves. So there's a big advantage with using a vendor like ourselves to deal with that. Obviously, SIP trunking and the maintenance side of things. The maintenance really is covered off by the fact that we have warranty and warranty over all of the kit that we supply, and everything is supplied on next day delivery. So really what we provide to our customers and to yourselves will be unifying business telephony. We're a one-stop shop for business telephony of a range of different products. So just thinking about what a typical hosted VoIP deployment would look like, and thinking along hosted lines, we see a lot of hosted interest, especially from the small, medium-sized businesses and startups, especially because there's no capital outlay. The components simply are connectivity, the hardware, so a handset usually, the networking, so that might be a switch or power over Ethernet switch, the service and the licensing itself, so that's the licensing on our platforms. Now, we accept that some of this is this will encroach on what you're already doing. There's overlap there between what we can provide and what you want to provide yourselves, and you can take as little or as much as you like. Whether it's just the licensing and you supply the handsets, the PoE switching, and the connectivity, the broadband, the lease lines, or whether you wanted to do it all, we can work with you however you, whatever works for you. And really importantly, you've got the relationship with your clients already. So for you guys, there's an opportunity there to speak to them about what their network infrastructure is at the moment, what they can do to improve it, and actually provide some consultancy and network and telephony design. And really, that's where your value add comes in. Thinking about some of the functionality that we're going to get out of a newer VoIP system or a hosted platform. Basically, we're looking at features that bring together business agility, really integrating communications much more between the IT world and the telephony world. So bringing together the likes of on-screen dialing. We've got applications that sit into Outlook, Firefox, and Internet Explorer that allow the users themselves, the end users, to be able to set their call forwarding options, set their do not disturb, click to dial from web pages and things. So really bringing some integration. The handset's no longer just a piece of plastic on the desk. On top of that, building from that, we have a CRM integration piece, and there's some of the main CRM titles up there that this integrates with, which allows screen popping. It allows automatic input of the call when it happens into the CRM records, and things like click to dial. We also have call recording, fully call-admissible call recording, up to 120 days of stored calls. We give stats on every call that's recorded, so there's a plethora of stats monitoring that can be done, and very, very advanced search filters. Obviously, putting through hundreds of calls, you want to be able to get to the ones you want very easily. And then finally, the actual PBX side of things. If you want to take on the mantle of looking after the PBX, doing call routing, then you can absolutely go online, run through a web portal. There's no requirement to be on the customer's site, not even needs to be a VPN to their site to be able to manage a PBX. These are all things that you can do. And from a customer's point of view, there's no direct maintenance contract for this, or at least from your point of view, we're not going to charge you access to this portal, but it does, again, offer you the opportunity to bill out a service to be able to look after this for your clients. So, thinking about mobility, there's big words in kind of unified comms at the moment. Everyone's talking about bring your own device and mobility, and absolutely our platform caters for that. So we have iOS and Android apps for tablets and smartphones, which means that users can actually take their extension with them. They can make calls from the platform using those apps, and similarly on laptops and Macs, we can do the same there. And finally, messaging and presence. The big one, really the big growth sector we see. Link from Microsoft is obviously the top-of-mind presence and IM tool, but this integrates with your phone system. So you pick up the telephone, it puts you into a call. You're already it's seen as being unavailable, so no one can route a call to you because they can just look on Link that you're not available. Look on the IM. Sorry. Also, web collaboration, sharing, and video messaging in this application as well. So if there is a real need to collaborate, maybe the disparate sites where they could really take advantage of this, this all fits in very nicely with a unified comms offering. So, over to Chris.
Yeah, so thanks very much for that, Will. So I'm going to look into just the commercial aspects of the VoIP solution in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to be looking at revenue opportunities with regards to looking at the licensing structure and how VoIP is licensed and how that compares to the traditional PBX model. Going to be having a look at the partner programs that we offer and how you can work with Cloud Direct to offer VoIP as a service to your customers, and also looking at how you can actually add value as a reseller as well to the service. So looking at the licensing structure of VoIP, it differs a lot from the traditional PBX model, which, as Will touched on, does require a large upfront capital investment in the PBX itself. Otherwise, you're going down the leasing route, which would typically be on a minimum 5-year contract. On top of that, as Will mentioned, also you've got the maintenance costs, and then the lines themselves obviously need the ISDN. So for a small to medium business, it's not an ideal model for them. It requires a capex, which isn't the perfect model for most small business customers, and it has little flexibility in the service going forward as well. In comparison to that, with the VoIP solution, it offers a pricing structure that's much more suited to an SMB company and really provides more flexibility. So each handset that you have with VoIP will come with a user license charged on a per user per month basis, and every handset, and user license that's provided will have its own direct dial. So if you've got 5 users, they've got 5 handsets that can make 5 concurrent calls. That model can then scale up and down on a monthly basis as the business changes. So if you've got another 2 employees that come and start at the company, we can send them another 2 pre-provisioned handsets, simply plug them into the router or switch, and they're going to be able to have an extra 2 concurrent calls. So the only real limitations with the scalability of VoIP is with the bandwidth itself, with the bandwidth available to the customer. And that really is an opportunity for you as an IT provider to look at upgrading their existing lines. It's something we can talk about in a minute. So it's quite a customized solution that you get with VoIP. In terms of the user licenses, we'll start from around about £7 per user per month. Then as well, on top of the standard licenses, there's a range of features that can be added on. So from the smartphone applications, call center applications, auto attendant or IVR system, if you're looking to have the options. All of those really allow you to design a solution that's going to fit the specific needs of your customer. So they're only going to end up paying for what they actually want. We also provide to the second call billing. There's no connection or termination charges, and typically you find call prices much lower than you pay with a typical BT landline. So there are savings to be made there as well. So we'll send a full price list out for anyone who's interested in the service afterwards. You can just let me know about that. So with regards to looking at our partner schemes, there's 2 main partner schemes that we offer. The first of which is our certified partner scheme. This is really an entry-level partner scheme which is designed for partners who are wanting to offer our services to customers but still really want to keep a focus on their core products and services. Accounts on this basis can be signed up on a case-by-case basis. There's no commitment that you need to make as a partner. You'll have a dedicated account manager from Cloud Direct, so you're going to be able to discuss each deal with you, make sure that you're ultimately putting the best solution forward and at the best price as well. Billing in this model can either be direct, so we can bill customers directly for the service and pay you a recurring commission for this, or if you'd rather, we can bill you for the service at a discount and you can then bill the customer at the price you choose. So this is really the best scheme to go with if for example, VoIP isn't going to be one of your core business offerings, but it is something that you want to have in your portfolio. On the other side, we've then got the wholesale partner scheme, and this is designed for partners who want to resell our services really as one of their core offerings. So you'll have full access to the management portals, you can provision and manage the accounts yourself. We can also provide you with white-labeled customer billing, so that's for both the license costs and also for the call costs as well. To make it very easy for you to provide a high quality of service to your customers. There's also increased discounts available on this, which will be based on the amount of revenue that's being generated for your customers. So again, if anyone's interested, just let me know. I can send you the full details on both of those partner schemes. So looking at how you can add value to this as an IT partner, there is some margin to be made from obviously reselling VoIP services, both on the license costs and also on the call costs as well. But most of our partners agree that the real benefits from this really come from the value you can add to your customer base. And it's really an increased opportunity that VoIP gives you to sell your core services. So as we discussed just a minute ago, reliable VoIP service really depends on having a solid connectivity into the premises. So if you've got a customer who's interested in VoIP, it's a good time to discuss upgrading the broadband connection or possibly looking at putting in something faster like an EFM or fibre lease line. And also it could be a good opportunity to look at selling additional hardware such as routers or switches at the same time. So you've got an opportunity to cross-sell into your existing customer base. It also gives you an opportunity to penetrate new accounts as well. So there's a lot of small to medium businesses that are interested in VoIP telephony. So, if it's something that you've got in your portfolio, something that you can offer, it gives you more opportunity for winning accounts that you can then grow from that point onwards. From the support point of view, as well as obviously selling other core services and products you've got, providing VoIP to customers is also going to increase the need they've got for support. So while many IT providers have stayed clear of the support for telecoms products, support for hosted telephony is really now considered more of an IT-related function. So you will get quite a few, user-related support requests with VoIP, such as adding new users, changing hunt group options. But the process for actually doing that support is very straightforward. It's something we can do for you, or it's something you can do yourself. Depends on the model you want to work with. And also what it's going to do is increase your customer stickiness as well. So obviously adding VoIP into the portfolio, it's going to enable you to provide a more comprehensive service to your customer base, and obviously the more services you can provide to each customer, the stickier they're going to become. So it's going to give you the opportunity to consult with the customers more, again, providing one of their core services, which telephony will be one of their main business functions. And that's going to help to strengthen the relationship you've got with the customer. It's also going to prevent other providers from getting in and speaking to customers as well. There's a lot of customers, as I said, interested in VoIP at the moment, and if it's a service that you can't offer, it's going to be something that another IT provider will be able to get in there with. So back over to you, Will.
So yeah, I mean, Chris has touched on the fact that we do have a great big portfolio of products. We are a cloud services brokerage. That is to say, we go out there and we look for enterprise class technologies vended from the big players, the HPs and the IBMs of the world, and then we make it available to the small and mid-sized markets and the IT community to be able to resell those and refer. So there's a few up there. I won't go through them all, but obviously we mentioned that there's going to be another couple of webinars coming up talking about backup and DR. And hosted environments, whether that be kind of just hosted infrastructure or things like hosted desktop. So that's all available from us. So if you've got requirements in other areas, please do ask the questions about them. And then obviously it's all underpinned by connectivity, and we do provide a whole range of connectivity from multiple vendors. Importantly, service is key. We're a 24/7, 365 UK-based service desk. We measure ourselves very strictly using a metric called Net Promoter. If you don't know what it is, you probably have been asked the question before, how on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely would you be to recommend this product or service to a friend or colleague? Those numbers up there, I won't run through exactly what they mean and why and how they're calculated, but they're very, very good. Industry standards round about the 9 or 10% mark in the IT services industry. And that's because we have a plethora of awards and service marks that we work to, that we really do that. And really the service thing here is about what we can provide to you as an IT partner. We don't want to be a vendor that simply it sells a service to you and then you're not getting any added value out of that. You can rest on us for first, second line support for your customers. If you want to just have us do second and third line and you maintain that contact with the customer, that's fine. We'll work with you however you want. And fundamentally, the market out there is still pretty sketchy about cloud. It's being talked about a lot, but what's the trust factor? We measure ourselves using ISO accreditation 20000 and 27001. So really, they are the two marks that we look for in all of our vendors as well, to make sure that we're putting security and the customer needs of security right at the top of the agenda. Because there is a reluctance with cloud services. There's usually a story every so often in the news about Dropbox, for instance, losing customer details. So it's absolutely key for us to be tight on that, so that we can give that kind of authority to the customer that we're looking out for their best interests. So that's a little bit about Cloud Direct as a whole. If you've got any questions, I know one question came in a little earlier talking about whether we are going to hand you these slides out. We're actually recording this webinar, so that's going to be made available on our website. I'm just going to put you on pause for a few moments. If you've got any questions around hosted VoIP or about our partner schemes that Chris and I can take questions on, please do use the chat box, and we'll come back to you in just a few moments. Thank you very much. So we've got a question regarding VoIP call quality. It's one of the things that actually we've been using VoIP ourselves at Cloud Direct for about 5 years, and it took probably 3 years, 2 or 3 years, for us to find a vendor that we were happy enough that had the quality issue sorted out. Often with the way these things, the theory gets ahead of the practice, and what we found was that there were a lot of providers out there that could provide voice over IP in its basic form, but without the infrastructure behind it, without the N+1 data centers, the no single point of failure that's required to be able to put real quality first. On top of that, it's very important to look at the connectivity providers, because it's obviously voice over IP. All you're doing is sending that voice traffic from a customer site into their broadband or lease line provider's core network. So if the providers aren't going to prioritize the voice traffic, then there's a second issue there. So really we look at VoIP providers, or our VoIP provider, who has 2 data centers. There's an immense amount of infrastructure. So BroadSoft are a very, very large company, and they've put a lot of money into making sure that the infrastructure holds up and is scalable and doesn't suffer from poor quality. On top of that, all of our broadband and lease line providers also offer voice quality of service prioritization on the broadband traffic itself. And actually, because of the locations in which our connectivity partners and the BroadSoft platform sit, they're in the same data center. There's actually only 3 hops on the route from the data going from the phone to the router to the core network and getting to our session border controllers. And that means that we've got complete visibility of the call traffic to make sure that we can absolutely guarantee good call quality. And actually, for the first time, we're able to offer HD call quality. That's better than toll quality. So better call quality than is expected to get out of normal ISDN lines. And so, yeah, we have handsets that support that HD call quality. If you want any more information about how we look after networks and how we monitor that, then please do ask, and we'll get you some information out. Thank you.
Yeah, so we've had a question just asking about the charges that we would make to partners for billing their customers for VoIP, and there would be no charge for that. I mean, essentially, if you come on board with us as a partner, either as a reseller or within our wholesale partner scheme, it's a free of charge service that we'll provide, which will enable you, we'll literally produce customer billing for you. It'll be a sort of detailed breakdown, itemized billing of of the call costs. And that's something which we can rebrand, stick your logo on there for you, and something you can then pass on to the customers. And again, that'd be a service to be completely free of charge, so included within the partner program. Thank you.
Another question just about HD handsets. I know I touched on them a moment ago. There isn't a massive premium going to an HD handset than not. We're a Polycom house, so we primarily vend the Polycom SoundPoint range of phones. The IP331 is the non-HD, the IP335 is HD. The cost difference is marginal. You really make a difference, or you'll notice a difference if you're speaking to somebody who's using an HD handset on the other end. Really, the fundamental is that the Polycom handsets are sturdy, they're strong, they're not overcomplicated. There's not 50 buttons on there that's going to confuse a number of users. They're very easy to deploy. They are self-provision, we can ship to site, and they're pretty much a plug-and-play environment for them. So that's really the fundamental of why we use those handsets. HD is great. We have HD phones in our office. Everyone speaks to each other in HD. It's not really, at the moment, the market is shifting towards HD, but it's not really prevalent enough to maybe warrant it all the time. And actually, when you're looking at putting in a solution for a client, for the cost difference, you may suggest that actually it's not really worth it at the moment, and they can always update the handsets at the end of that term. It gives you another option to upgrade. Another question about the minimum number of handsets or users per business. To be perfectly honest, we scale from users that have one handset right the way up to hundreds. So there is no minimum. That's kind of the beauty of a VoIP platform. There's no barrier to entry in that regard. In fact, we have users that don't even carry a handset. They've simply got the application on a smartphone. It means they've got a business presence, an 01 or an 02 or even an 08 number that will route to their mobiles. It means they can carry it anywhere they like. And they can put features like the auto attendant in front of that and make themselves appear, from a telephony point of view, a larger organisation than they are. So there's no barrier to entry. There's no minimum number of handsets or users that we'll entertain. So, yeah. There's no problem for you to go out to anyone with that. So a question about the lead time from sign-off to being operational. Often this is something we'll discuss with you during the process. It's good to know what the customer's expectations are. One of the things we've not touched on at all during this is number porting. Number porting is notoriously difficult even from ISDN provider to ISDN provider. If there is a requirement where the customer wants to bring their numbers to us, that will infer that there's a longer lead time for setup to have those numbers, to be able to dial out with those numbers. In the meantime, we suggest that people put a remote call forward on their existing numbers to our platform. However, in terms of actually setting the client up, when we've been pushed, we can do it the same day if needs be, with our hardware getting shipped for the following day. Normally, we estimate, we try and stick to sort of a 10 working day lead time, which is not unreasonable considering it's a fair amount of disruption that would go on in the business. And actually, the business themselves should think about the deployment and the management of that project in its own right. And it gives us an opportunity to talk to you and for you to talk to the customer during that deployment to make sure that actually when the phones arrive and they're plugged in and they're set up and they're working, everything from the hunt groups to the IVRs to their voicemail setup is all correct and as they expected it to be. So we don't want to rush these things for the sake of it, but there really isn't a barrier to getting it up and running. Question just about line rental and ISP, the broadband services. Do they have to go through us? They don't. We have partners that are looking to adopt VoIP because they have a connectivity portfolio anyway, but they just need to bolster that with some VoIP. The reason we like for it to come through us is one of kind of management and maintenance on their network. If we've got their broadband circuit or the EFM circuit, as well as we're supplying a managed router and all of the IP phones behind it and the VoIP service, then really we've got total end-to-end management. Now that's doesn't preclude you doing providing your own networks, providing your own connectivity, and in fact, VoIP is quite a nice bolt onto that, but it's not necessarily a prerequisite. If you are, for instance, a WLR3 wholesaler and you wanted to put your own PSTN lines in there, you could put your own PSTN lines in there and your own broadband, or you could put your own PSTN lines in there and our broadband. We'll work with you however you want. And a question about minimum recommended broadband speed. This comes back slightly to the question of call quality. So we've got the option to have standard toll quality, which is the same as you get on a normal PSTN line at home or an ISDN line in an office, versus the HD call quality. Simply put, the normal call quality, we tend to look for 40 kilobit of synchronous connection per call. We tend to quote about 100 for an HD. In fairness, those are slightly inflated, but we do that so that we know we've always got enough bandwidth. So if you've got a 1 meg synchronous connection, then you can effectively have 10 high definition calls or 20, 25 low definition calls. And actually, when you think about that cost, and if you think about each one of those 40 kilobits, if you like, is a channel, and compare that to the cost of a ISDN channel that they'd be paying on ISDN 30, VoIP and SIP trunking are far and away more cost effective than anything else that's out there. So actually the minimum recommended broadband speed is pretty low. Latency is usually the more key factor, but in most situations that latency isn't a problem either. It's also worth mentioning, as I said in the slide there, we do have our own SDSL products. So even if you may have a broadband offering, if you were looking at supplanting SIP trunks out of a business and you wanted an SDSL product, a synchronous circuit that would provide X number of connections, we can provide that. You may just want to take that single product from us where you get those specific requirements, simply because we know that it's on our network. We know that there's only 3 hops between that customer's site now and our session border controllers on the Broadsoft platform. Again, another question on the bandwidth. We're looking at if we've got asynchronous broadband where we've got very, very low down to sort of ADSL or standard ADSL rates of no more than sort of 2 or 3 meg down. Really, it's always going to be the up factor that's going to be the troublesome element of it. If you're in that situation and you were running voice and data of the same circuit, or there was voice and data both being used on that site, we suggest having a separate circuit just for voice. Now there is going to be a limitation on the number of calls on a circuit that's perhaps only 2 meg, and that would probably be looking at no more than about a 256 bit upstream. But even with 256, you're probably still looking at having 5 decent standard quality calls. So it really does play into how big is the business that you're looking at. If you're looking at a company that's got very, very low bandwidth availability like that, they're probably quite small, and they're probably not going to require more than 5 concurrent calls. We also have on the back of that, we also have an assured rate broadband, which may well help in those areas where we can actually guarantee the upstream and therefore provide better call quality, especially if we're going to be putting voice separately from the data. So are there any other questions? I know we've covered off a bit about the bandwidth requirements, something about the HD side of things, and the way we bill through our partners. If there's anything else that occurs, then please do get in touch with us on the email address on the screen. That's partners@clouddirect.net, or on our sales line 0800 0789 437. If there's anything else that comes up, please do get in touch. We'll be following this up with some more webinars, so no doubt you'll be getting some invites for those. We hope we see you there. And if you have any requirements at the moment, if you wanted to check a postcode or a line for any of our broadband products, yeah, please get in touch, and we can put that through our systems and check what is available in those areas, and just make sure that we're able to provide for them. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time today, Chris.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
They're going to be here on the next ones. So yeah, we look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you.